We all know that Titans aren't the best healers or support class, but I may have found a build that might remedy this situation. The Phoenix Cradle exotics allow you to give your teammates the benefit of your sunspots, so they get the restoration and the ability regen. In addition to that, you also get additional time with your sunspots and their effects. So you may not be dealing all the damage outright, but you will be doing a better job at keeping your teammates alive. So starting off with the subclass options, we have Roaring Flames. Since the focus of this build is to heal, we sacrifice our damage nades, whether it be Fusion, Thermite, etc. For a healing nade, we need some way to put out damage. And our hammer, without Syntheseps or Heart of Innermost Light, is not really going to cut it. So having Roaring Flames stack up to ×3 for additional ability damage is going to be a really nice way to create those sunspots and keep yourself alive with the cure that also comes off it. Next up we have Sol Invictus, which is kind of the key part to providing buffs to your team. We have the ability regen that you get from it and the restoration ×1 that gets you for being inside of it. This is kind of what keeps you alive, and now the timer is doubled due to the exotic. Now onto the abilities. For your grenade, you can run either a damage grenade or a healing grenade. The damage grenade in its own right allows you to make another sunspot, but I prefer having the healing nade because it is a lot more consistent to getting your teammates alive instead of relying on a sunspot. So, as you'll see in the gameplay, I threw a grenade and it saved my teammate's life more than a sunspot would have in that situation. Then I used the throwing hammer just for a consistent infinite melee. On top of the stacking from Roaring Flames, it's just very good to create sunspots with. The barricade is kind of up to you. I prefer the towering barricade because I like having a wall in case I need to stick a res or if I get into a really tight spot. Now that we have abilities and aspects squared away, let's talk about the fragments. We use 4 fragments in this build. We use Ember of Torches, Solace, Tempering, and Wonder. Ember of Torches gives you and your teammates Radiance, which is a nice little damage buff so you guys can go around killing stuff a little bit better. Then we move on to Ember of Solace for increased Radiant and Restoration timers for yourself, just to keep you alive and functioning a bit better so you're not a complete detriment to your team. Then we have Ember of Tempering, so on solar weapons kills, you give your teammates increased recovery, and it stacks up to 3 and then has a cooldown onto your next use. And last but not least, we have Ember of Wonder to generate orbs off ignitions. This synergizes with the weapons I'll be showing later in the video, but it gives you orbs so you can have better super generation. Now let's talk about the loadout that I use for this build. There's only 2 key ingredients, the exotic and a weapon in the energy slot with incandescent or demolitionist, preferably both. There is one weapon that satisfies this need, and that is the BXR Battler. You get it from Days of Eternity. You can also craft it so you can have enhanced versions of those perks, but there are a mass amount of weapons that have incandescence, like Judgment of Kel'Garath, Callous Mini Tool, Zauli's Bane, the Ikello Shotgun, the Ikello Sniper, the Trusty from Deepstone Crypt. The list goes on and on. But those are the 2 really main ingredients. The Incandescent Demolitionist is for your ability to regen on your grenade and to generate sunspots at longer ranges. And for mods, I like to use Bountiful Wells for that extra well on top of your abilities. The Solar Well mod that gives you additional grenade energy on pickup. Well of Life to give you healing. Melee Wellmaker, and you can use either Elemental Armament or whatever other mod you like in that slot. I prefer Seeking Well so I don't have to chase them out, but that's really up to your preference. And for stats, the only really thing you need to keep high is your discipline and your resilience as a Titan. So you get your grenade back faster, and you have just the intrinsic damage resistance on top of your barricade cooldown. Now that we've talked about abilities and loadout, let's talk about the gameplay. The main goal is to create Sunspot. This keeps you and your teammates alive, topped up on energy, and with the Radiant buff. Use your hammer up close to smack away enemies and to create wells for you and your team. Use your solar weapons with incandescent to create sunspots in longer range situations and to give your teammates the edge of tempering. And now that I've talked about the entirety of the build and its gameplay, here's some of the gameplay of the build in action. It's from this week's GM, which was Insight Terminus, and was Void Burn, so I did not have any additional damage given or taken by solar. Now that we've made it to the end of the video, I'd like to say thanks for making this far and watching my content. If you enjoyed, leave a like. I will leave the dim link to this build for any further clarification if my explanation wasn't good enough in the description below. I hope you have a good one. Peace.